Basically, in general terms, masking is hiding or revealing portions of an edit or filter applied. I am gonna using this image to show some examples regarding masking. But first I need to apply a filter to this image. We'll try the HDRscape filter with the nature preset. Gonna increase the saturation. Also the HDR filter strength. As you can see, the image doesn't look good on certain parts, especially the sky. So we'll try to selectively apply the HDR effect only on the buildings here. Now we are going to the major part of masking to do that. Tap on the stacks icon on the top right. In the options below, tap View Edits. Tap the filter we applied now and select the stacks brush. Here's the masking screen. The invert icon in the bottom left turns the filter on or off. The eye in the right is a toggle which gives a visual red mask. This helps in seeing where the effect is brushed out or not. It comes in handy when you are not sure where the masking is being applied. At the center, you can set the brush transparency values at 25 count increments. As I was planning to give the HDR effect only on the buildings with the effect hidden, that is with the filter off, and with the brush value at 100, I am gonna brush manually on the buildings. Again, toggling the eye icon lets you see where exactly the effect is being applied. Now you can see the full HDR effect on the buildings. Next, I'm going to try to also give some HDR effect to the sky, but full HDR filter doesn't look too good. So with the brush transparency set at 50, brushing on the sky to give it literally 50% of the HDR effect. I will leave the water as it was before. Thing to note that in this case I added the effect after it was hidden initially. Make sure not to toggle the invert button when applying, as it would invert the effect. You can also apply the same effect with the filter applied. So with the invert button on, that is the filter visible, and with the brush transparency set at 0, I am gonna brush out the effect on water, won't touch the buildings here, and then with the brush value at 50, applying it in the sky. So you can basically apply the same effect with the filter hidden or applied. This is a personal choice. Now I'm gonna apply some contrast in the Tune Image menu. Then with masking, the filter hidden and the brush transparency set at 100, applying it on only the buildings. Next, I'm going to try selectively darkening part of the sky. So using curves, dragging the top point lower, also the middle part towards right to darken the overall image. Going to the masking screen, with the effect hidden and brush transparency at 100, applying on the left part of the sky. Zooming out gives you a soft feathered mask. Varying the brush transparency and brushing in the sky to make it more interesting. Next, I'm gonna try cloning the boat with masking. Before that, I'm gonna save the image. Next, with the double exposure tool, selecting the now saved image. As it is the same image added, it doesn't look different here. Increasing the transparency of the image to 100, dragging it so that the boat is moved to the left corner. Making sure to set it at right place by comparing it to the original background. Next, moving to the masking screen of the last edited double exposure filter. Here with the effect hidden, with the value of the brush set at 100, brushing roughly on the part where the boat is located. zooming in as much as possible, which gives a hard feather selection, and carefully brushing on the board to get a precise selection. If you overdo it, you can set the brush value at 0 and brush out the selection. Toggle the eye icon to check if you have made the exact selection. Correct the mask if not. As you can see, we have literally cloned the boat on this image. Masking can also be used to hide text from the image. Here I am going to try hiding the number on the boat using the lens blur filter. Applying it with default values and making sure the number is blurred. Now with masking, applying it on the number. You can also make it more whiter, using curves, dragging the lower point to the top to make the whole image white. With masking, brushing on top of the number to make it white. Lowering the mask transparency to 50 to make it look better. There are a lot of ways in which you can use tracks brush to give the image a different look. For example, using curves with masking to change the whole ambience of the image, change the colors of part of the image, or use double exposure to manipulate the image. I will leave the links of these edits in the description below, check them out for more ideas. Now coming to the most popular way on how the masking feature is being used, the hidden text. I'm also gonna give a nice trick on how to give it a dual color tone. First, applying the text here, changing the font to make it bigger, naming it on the country this place is located, placing it on the sky with the lower parts little on the buildings. Now going to masking, with the text effect unhidden and the brush transparency at 0, brush out the text on the buildings to give it a hidden text effect. Zooming in as much as possible to give a nice feather selection. This will take a long time, so fast forwarding it. Changing the text color to a bright yellow. To give the text a dual color effect, first I need to duplicate this text filter. Tapping on the stacks icon, view edits. Here in the 3-dot menu, tapping copy. This basically copies all the filters applied. There is no option to copy only the text filter. Now tapping insert, which duplicates all the filters applied. Here I am going to delete all the duplicated filters other than the last text filter. This is the original filter below and the duplicated one on top. For this text, changing the color to something close to reddish color. Going to the masking screen, you can see inverting the filter gives you an interesting effect. But toggling it back, and with the brush transparency at 0, zooming out and erasing the red text around the left to reveal the yellow text below, which gives you a nice dual tone text. These are just some of the ways on how to use masking to selectively apply filters on certain parts, and the possibilities are endless. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other tips on using masking or stacks brush. Snapseed's developers define double exposure as being inspired from film and digital image processing according to their official description. But there is more to it. We'll try for a detailed explanation here in this video. Other than the default, there are 5 more modes in the double exposure tool: lighten, darken, add, subtract, and overlay. In Snapseed, opening an image with a simple example of a white and black image. Going to the double exposure menu, I'm going to add an inverted image of the same with black on the left and white on the right. Increasing the opacity to 100 blocks the base image completely. Defaulting back to 50% where blend modes gives the best results. Tapping on the options button to get the 5 blend modes. Choosing the lighten mode option. Here the double exposure tool takes only the brighter pixels from both the base and the top images, in this case the white areas. So the result turns completely to white in this example. Darken mode works in a similar way. Taking only the darker areas, in this case the black color, the result is a black image. For the remaining modes, it is better understandable with images having more colors. Opening an image here with different colors. Adding another image using double exposure with more colors. The result of this combination in lighten mode is these bright faded colors. We'll go a bit technical now on how we got this. Later I will try explaining in non-technical terms with some examples. Here I will take the first and third colors from the base and top image and see how we got the resulted bright faded colors. Every color has RGB values. For example, here are the values for the first color. There are color picker apps on mobiles too if you wanna try. Now I'll put the values of each color below. Now we'll take the higher value from these two numbers and paste it here. So this is how we get the final resultant colors for lighten mode. Because of the higher values, the colors also get brighter. The results for the darken mode are a bit similar. Instead of higher values, the results are derived from the lower RGB values. Final output being darker colors. Now to the add mode. Basically, as the name suggests, just need to add both the values, resultant being a very bright color. Note that the final value should not exceed the maximum RGB value of 255. Next to the subtract mode. Here we need to subtract the top image pixels with the corresponding base image pixels. The values are 0 if numbers go to negative. Overlay mode is the final option. Basically the result is a more contrasty version with vibrant colors of the two corresponding pixels from top and the base image. It sort of combines the multiply and screen modes of Photoshop. Now we'll try some examples. As an example, have taken this color portrait image with a white background. Could get some unpredictable colors with the double exposure modes. Adding a nice vibrant landscape here. As we know by now, choosing the lighten option should remove the portion of the landscape on the white background, as white is the brightest portion here. Darken is basically inverted when compared to the lighten mode. Add mode adds a lot of brightness from both the images. Subtract should make all the darker parts more dark. Overlay certainly gives the best looking one here with nice contrast and colors. Now we are going to remove all the colors by turning this portrait image to black and white. Should get more predictable colors here. Again using the same landscape image for double exposure. Here there are no more confusing colors from the base image. Using the overlay blend mode and placing the water body of the landscape at a desired place. I'm going to add one more darker landscape image but with a bright sky. Choosing lighten mode. Going back to the previous filter and removing the mask on the hair. Coming back, masking out the bottom part. Getting some interesting results here. Next for a landscape edit. Opening the same vibrant image from the previous edit. Also adding this already edited sunset image with the double exposure tool. We'll try getting the warm evening colors on the mountains. Masking out the remaining portions. Using curves to darken the image and masking on the foreground to get it darker. Today I want to talk to you about how awesome the curves tool can be, not only in Snapseed but any app which has this tool. I use it in almost every photo. It is very versatile and makes a lot of difference. You can use the curves tool to lighten a photo, you can use it to darken a photo, you can also use it to add contrast or take contrast away and add a matte effect. And you can even use it to add color tones to your images. Snapseed also has one advantage with regards to other mobile apps, which I will come back to later. Now I will show you how to do that using this image here. I will add a little pop to it and make it a lot more interesting. So the first thing we need to do is add the curves effect by tapping the curves tool. Now to understand how this graph works, On the right hand side and the top part of the graph, it represents the highlights. The left represents the shadows in this image, and everything in between are the midtones. So to lighten a photo, all you would do is grab the middle part of your graph. So this line here, you're just gonna tap here, which creates an anchor point, and drag up to the left. This brightens the image, and drag it right to darken the image. Now we are gonna add some contrast. With the point added in the middle, I will drag the upper part to the left, which brightens the highlights. As this is a curve, dragging any part of the curve also affects the curve on the other part. So here, if you want to remain the shadows unaffected, straighten the curve. But here, as we need to darken the shadows, I will move it down towards right. With this, we have applied contrast with the S curve. Now moving to the color option in the curves. There are 3 to choose here, the reds, greens and the blues. These curves act a bit different compared to the RGB curves. Here with the red curve selected, if you move it to the left, it adds reds to the whole image. Move it to the right, it removes the reds but also boosts the color aqua, which is opposite to the red. Similarly, dragging the green curve towards left adds greens, dragging it right adds the opposite color magenta. Dragging blue towards left adds blues, dragging it opposite adds yellows. I will come back to these color tones later. Now for the luminance curve. It acts a little different from the RGB curve. To know the difference, first I will apply some hot contrast using the RGB curve. Now you can notice some added saturation in addition to the contrast. Now with the luminance curve, if I apply the same S contrast, only the luminance values gets affected, saturation remains the same. As I said at the start, Snapseed has one advantage over other mobile apps, and that is masking. So here we are gonna apply this luminance contrast only on some parts of the foreground. So first I will apply this effect, then go to masking, tap on the top right for the stacks icon, then view edits, select the latest effect applied, and then brush. With the effect hidden, also there is an eye icon which you can toggle on where the effect will be applied. So with the brush value at 100, I will brush over the area where this luminance contrast need to be applied. Toggle the eye icon off to see the effect. So we have selectively applied the effect only on a part of this image. Now we are going to add some color tones. To add blue tones to the shadows, that is the darker parts, first add a point around here and then drag the bottom point up. Now you start seeing the blue tones in the shadows. If you want to add yellows to the highlights, drag the upper part of the blue curve towards right, which adds yellows to the brighter areas. In addition to the yellows, we are gonna add some reds to the highlights. So I will drag the upper part of the red curve towards left. Now with both the red and yellow tones to the highlights, it has added a bit of orange tone. Now for some matte look or a faded effect. As the bottom point affects the blacks, when I drag it upwards, the black starts moving towards grey, which gives the image a faded look. Also, we'll drag the top point down. Now the whites are turned to grey. So I will keep the midtones as it is. So with this we have achieved a matte finish to the image. Now for some tricks with the RGB curves. As you know by now, moving the bottom point up makes the blacks grey. The more you move the point, the more it becomes lighter, and eventually the complete image turns white. Same way with the top point, dragging it to the bottom makes the image completely black. Now with both points in the opposite parts, the image turns negative. One more example here of making a major retouch here with curves. I will brighten the image with the RGB curves, add a lot of red and yellow. Then with masking, applying it selectively gives you this major effect. So you can see how powerful the curves tool can be.